I'm
We're
sorry that it took
back.
so long. I'm sorry. I
Oof. These allergies are killing me. But welcome back to the Jagged Edge,
I had
Javal.
a vacation. That's why we didn't record earlier, people. I'm so sorry.
I also had a
But
vacation
I
too,
I,
so
I
it
did
worked
get
out.
this hat on vacation, which is what I wanted to show. So I got this in
Yeah,
Mexico, in case anyone's interested.
that's a crazy hat to get from Mexico still. Of all places to sell
Yeah, I've all
cool hats.
I can switch back to the regular one. You know, I can
You're
put this in
tried and
rotation
true.
though.
Yeah,
I just
man.
wanted to show off, you know.
It's
Yes, there was a delay, but I did get a cool hat. So
Mexico got cool hats. Uh-oh. Javal, are you there? For some reason you're frozen on my end. There you are.
plenty of hats, man. You know, I'm the hat guy. Always got to, especially with how hot it is, you gotta have plenty of hats for the games. So,
Yeah, man. Oh
but
no, my internet connection's unstable. What the fuck do you mean by that? That would be terrible way to go. But all
but
right, we're still recording. We're all good.
yeah, I know it's been a little bit since we did the last pod, just talking about the GM hire, and now it's free agency. Free agency's pretty much wrapped up. I mean, they signed 10 players. I don't know if they're
Mm.
gonna sign any more players. So it's
We
not
raised
top.
we raised the
They
floor.
raised the floor.
We
Yes.
raised the floor.
That was precisely what they wanted to do. They wanted to raise the floor. And to their credit, I think they did a solid job of that. So
It's
we'll
such a
kind of,
different approach to what we're used to, like, watching the Jags in free agency.
yeah. I mean, we can kind of talk about a holistic, just their general approach to free agency and then break player by player. But it definitely was, granted, I know we didn't do a preview. I didn't expect them to make many splashes in free agency. I was expecting, oh, you know, they're going to sign some depth guys, probably along the offensive line and some other places. And then from there, they're just going to focus on building up the depth of this team. And that's exactly what they did. They didn't throw out any crazy contracts or throw out any crazy money. And there's definitely some contracts that people can look at and say, like, it's not perfect, but at the end of the day, they didn't give out any crazy money. Like last offseason, when Bulky was giving deals to Armstead and Gabe Davis, you know, those were a lot more of the contracts that they want to try to avoid, which they did. They did a pretty good job of doing that. So I'm just glad that they're trying to stay patient, trying to start everything over. And even though there were some decisions along the way that people may not have fully agreed with, you know, rest in peace. He's not dead, but he's just on the Texans now. Christian Kirk.
Hold
And
on, I gotta grab it now since you brought it up. We can keep talking to the people.
but yeah, it's definitely been a off season where there were some moves people weren't expecting. There's a lot of debate on whether they're going to cut Ingram or Kirk. They end up getting rid of both. A couple other players, but none of them are really crazy. And they didn't try to go out and splurge. They didn't try to go out and go after any crazy big names. You know, some people would think maybe they might go after Javon Holland or maybe they might go after a big name guard or anything. And they didn't try to go,
What on earth am I supposed to do with what the fuck am I supposed to do with this?
just wait until somebody else takes 13 and just tape it over.
No, but
Oh,
as I
sign! No,
what am I
I
supposed
just
to do with
realized
this?
it's sign.
So, a funny story about this. My friend went to one of those like box, you like box raffles from the Jags like games, like pregame and all that. My buddy bought one and gonna give it to me. Once he showed me who it was, like, damn, you know he's gonna be cut too by like Martian now that you gave me this. And lo and behold,
How did you know? Not even just cut, but traded.
yeah, well, and to one of our AAC South rivals, so we'll still see him twice a year, barring
You can,
injuries.
yeah, just wear
So
that at the next Texans game.
I could
Just
just wear it. I don't know. There's like nothing in the front. It's just legit a blank slate jersey. Just how boring these uniform sets are that they can just leave it
yeah.
blank like this. I
Still
mean,
hate them. Still hate how the jerseys, but hopefully that'll be the last part to the final rebuild. But yeah, I
yeah.
was just talking about free agency. I just it's so
Rest,
random.
rest. Rest in peace. I know, just a random thing I got during the
If there's
holidays.
any player that you want to get traded from the team, what you have to do is get their autograph. Got
Oh,
it.
look at
But
that. I had no idea, but this was made in the Philippines. That's wonderful.
it's all coming full circle.
Oh my goodness. All right. Let me go put this back and continue talking to the people.
But yeah, with the free agency plan as a whole, it wasn't supposed to be we're going to give out crazy money. We're just mainly more to, that's it. That's what I'm saying. We don't want to raise the floor of the offense, and that's precisely what they were trying to do. And depending on the moves that they made, you kind of see, okay, how the team as a whole, what do they think of the team, And part of it, I think, is just due to contracts. I think releasing Kirk and Ingram, a lot of that had to do with contracts. I think part of it also had to do with scheme fit because they may not be the best fit for Cohen's offense. So I think that also plays a role. But we kind of were able to see just the bigger picture of, okay, this is what the team thinks of these players, how they view them, which isn't necessarily a bad thing that they wanted to revamp everything. Dusting a little bit to get rid of players that the fans will like. But sometimes for a rebuild, you kind of have to start by making some uncomfortable decisions, which isn't perfect, but you know, that's how the world works sometimes. But I'm just glad that at the end of the day they're able to revamp. Ooh, okay, that's the sexy jersey. So now I want to get my throwback. Now I want to get my throwback jersey on.
No, it's like I never even
Hopefully,
wore this because
hopefully
this.
it's not autographed. That's all that
Yeah, this is the
matters.
one. This is autograph. This is actually autograph.
Oh no,
Yeah.
John! No, don't do it.
No, but this was during the charity event I went to back in like September, October. So this is fine. Fine. I'll take it off just to show it off as well. I should have done that before I put it on. But
Yeah.
uh, before I put everything back on with my messy hair and all. This is the one that is also signed by
Okay. See, that's
Josh
it.
as
Just,
well.
just make if he leaves, I'm blaming you. Just know
Oh,
that.
you're just gonna blame me now? That's
Yeah,
crazy.
pretty much. You're the jersey curse.
Am I
Don't
the just
never get a Trevor jersey. That's all I'm saying.
I
Never get
already
a
have
Trevor
one,
jersey.
but he's already been through the shit, through Urban and all that.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't have
rough.
any new one. I got
That's
one when you got immediately drafted. I think I've got a bet with Pint of Jack to where Kadarius Toney wouldn't be taken with like the top 50, and he gave me and
I
Keanu each a
remember
hundred
that
dollars.
bet. Sorry to go on a tangent, but I remember the bet. And then Dave Gettleman, God bless his soul.
Exactly. Oh, Kadarius Toney, what a guy! It is a sexy jersey, right? I
These
mean,
are beautiful jerseys. I
yeah,
mean, they
yeah.
should make those jerseys
I
the
shouldn't wear it.
full-time
I'll just put
jerseys,
this
but
away. That's not our decision to make, Javal. That is not our decision to make.
it's not our decision to make. But now I'm just saying, if Tony's in the building, I think Tony's gonna say, "Yeah, we got to get our aura back." But yeah, I was just mainly going over not even the free agency moves at the players they signed, but more so the players that they let go of. Obviously, Kirk Ingram kind of sucks. I think part of it is contracts, part of it is kind of the scheme fit. So we might see a little bit more of how they think everything's going to work out, which I think is interesting. So to me, I think the most interesting thing out of all of it is that they haven't signed any they really haven't signed that much defensive players. All the players that they signed were just on offense.
Which is very funny how
I'm
that
not
works
even,
out.
yeah, I mean, I think the offensive line especially needed some help too. We can kind of start talking more about the specific players themselves now that we've discussed the tragedies of losing these players.
Yeah,
But
I'm gonna go ahead and just start because we'll do a little bit fast. 10 players, we probably know them by now. It's been almost like a month since free agency started and went.
a month,
3 weeks, 2 weeks, three
yeah, close
weeks.
3 weeks, I think. I don't know. Everything is going by so quickly now. We're
Yeah,
literally a month from the draft, which is bananas to think about.
yeah, man. So the first free agency signing that we're looking at here is Jordan Lewis from the Dallas Cowboys. He was their three down slot corner, and he was one of the best in the position last year. But the only major question when it comes to him is where is he going to play and where is standout rookie Jared Jones going to play? They're going to be rotating back and forth between slot and outside, or is Jordan just going to stay in slot and they'd really trust Jared Jones to go back on the outside and make an impact? So that's something to watch out during the course of the preseason and season, I guess.
Yeah, I'm funny. I was listening to a pod with Charles Sigma and the Stock Exchange, and they were talking about the Jags moves, and that they thought he was a good player. They were just more so wondering how it's going to work, and they talked about even that jarring. They don't know if he has the outside build yet. So it's no interesting to note that out of all the players they signed, he's one of the only players with a pretty solid contract. I mean, he got 3 years, 30 million. I think it's 20 guaranteed. So
Hmm.
they definitely were they wanted him for a fact. And I remember even in the presser, Gladstone was talking about how when McVay was talking about the guys on the Cowboys roster, he would highlight Jordan Lewis a lot and how that was in the coaching game plan. So the fact that I'm not saying that only because McVay thought he was good that it's justified. The fact that one of the best offensive minds in the league said this is a guy we have to plan around, we have to scheme around for is very good. Probably coming off the best year of his career last year too. So obviously he's a little bit up there in age, but if you can get two, you just really need to get one good year out of him. If you get the next year is okay, then it's fine. You can cut him after year two without much repercussions. So I think the contract is fine. The player is good. It's really just, is he going to play in the slot? Is he going to be outside? I think he can play outside. That's where he started his career playing outside, but then moved to the slot. So we'll kind of see. I don't know how everything's going to work out yet, but they have a vision. Maybe they just aren't that high on Jarian Jones, which I'm not saying that they should be, but at the same time, it's a new regime. So if they're going to say, well, we're not in love with this guy, I can understand it. I think he played well in the circumstances. So, but at the same time, they may not say, we're going to give this guy a job on a platter. I think that's kind of the thing. We'll see with it, but I like the player and the move. It's really just the outside circumstances a little bit murky, but this is, I mean, this is one of their bigger investments, and it's a slot corner making $10 million a year or something. They didn't give away any bulky money, or Caldwell money, because I feel between both of those two guys, they were giving out money bags, so it's refreshing.
Speaking of somebody that's not going to make too much money over here, our next free agent signing is Nick Mullins, our new backup quarterback. I mean, it's just please just protect Trevor because I hope to
And
never
we
see
all
Nick
want
Mullins hit the
Nick.
field.
I want to see Nick Mullins after every game when we're up, 21 points in the fourth quarter with 5 minutes left. That'd be great to see Nick Mullins.
Oh, that'd be the only time that's acceptable to see Nick
Yeah, I'd
Mullins. But
love to see Nick Mullins in the game in mop-up duty, if it's 45-21 or something. That'd be great. But I mean, I don't have much to say other than he's a backup quarter. He's more Beathard than Mac Jones. So
yeah, so after that, next name on the list is Eric Murray, safety coming from the Houston Texans. Definitely needed it after Andre Cisco took a 1 year flyer deal with the Jets, so they just needed to have
I'm
another
still
body in
kind of
that
sad
second.
about that one. I'm sorry, Cisco.
He was
I
so bad last season, though.
I know he was bad, but he wasn't the only safety that was bad. Like the whole safety room was atrocious. So
It was a
I'm
war
sorry.
crime. It was a war crime to the eyes to watch the safeties play last year. You're not wrong about
I
that.
wouldn't be surprised if Cisco goes and balls out under Aaron Glenn. Especially 'cause he's from New York too. I don't know. I know it's an unrelated tangent. I just think Cisco's gonna ball out. But yeah, Eric Murray. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. Before they had the position, I remember it was the MJD tweeted it out with the full contract too, and then Eric Murray responded, "I hate when my information gets out there like that," which is valid. That's kind of Porter's job to do that, but he is
Yeah,
safety from
MJD of all people is pretty funny.
so random. But yeah, maybe we'll get biggest reporter, MJD. But honestly, I don't really have too much to say about Eric Murray as a whole. He's kind of bounced around the league. I think he started in Cleveland and then went to Kansas City, was in Texas for 2 years, 3 years, $12 million, or 3 years, 21, I think 12 guaranteed. So not crazy money. It's another contract they can get out of fairly easily. Is he going to be free safety, strong safety? No idea what's going to happen. I mean, we don't know how the defense is going to look until we actually see the players. Even in training camp, we'll kind of get an idea, but there's only so much we can know from training camp. They can't show everything. I mean, you kind of had to get a vet safety in the room so you didn't have any glaring needs. So I'm glad they did it. It's just more so we'll see how they think of the safety room as a whole because really I have no idea what kind of safety they're looking for. I mean, ideally they want to get a free safety because they lost Cisco and they kind of have guys, but maybe they think that the safeties they have aren't even that good, so it's not even maybe they want to start over from scratch at the safety position, which after watching tape last year, they might want to do that. I wouldn't blame them. So
I mean, they were one of the worst in the league. It's probably okay to start from scratch again.
yeah, so we'll see with Derek Murray. I don't really have too much to say other than he's just a guy. But if he's, I'm not expecting big things from him, which is fine because if he's just a
Hmm.
solid safety, then that's all you're really asking for. They weren't paying money for crazy high impact starters. Once again, they're trying to raise the floor of the offense. So
Yeah, so next on the list is probably I think the biggest contract they gave out during free agency, which is Patrick McCarry from the Ravens, where, we all know now that he played basically the entire offensive line in his time in Baltimore. Now he is gonna probably be slotting in for Brandon Scherf, who has he signed anywhere even yet? I don't think he has
don't
he?
think so. Teams might probably be waiting for the
Hmm.
draft for the comp base purposes. So that could play into it. I haven't seen him sign anywhere. So, but
Yeah,
yeah, going back to Makari, I mean, it was 3 years, 37 million. So once again, it's a sizable contract. You expect him to play a role, but it's not because there were the offensive line market, especially interior, has skyrocketed the past couple of years. Even going back to last year with the Panthers when they gave out two big contracts. The Packers gave 77, 4 years, 77 to Aaron Banks from San Francisco. There was somebody else I'm forgetting who just the offensive line market as a whole is skyrocketing, but now it's even just with interior linemen as well. So the fact they're able to get a reliable starter, you're not going to say he's going to change the offensive line, but at the same time, considering their history of free agents guards that haven't turned out well. I'm kind of glad they're trying to not overpay. They're just trying to lowball it a little bit. So, I'm happy that they're not trying to spend $20 million on a guard because I feel I haven't seen the Jags ever have a high price free agent offensive lineman that really works out well in a long time.
yeah.
So I'm glad they're going for the approach. So really, it's just more so we'll see how with Makari where he fits because I think he probably will play right guard, but he can also play center. He can play wherever. So worst case scenario, if they're paying Makari and he's their sixth man that can play pretty much everywhere, I still think it's a good signing because with the offensive line in the NFL, it's all about attrition. So the fact they're able to sign a guy who can play a lot of positions even if he doesn't start, he's gonna play. It's just offensive line. There's gonna be injuries. You need Makari so that way you can be more flexible, get the best five out there. I think it's a good signing. It's not crazy money. They only it's another contract they can get out from. They didn't want to hamstring themselves with contracts like unlike the previous regime, where when bulky, giving out those contracts, like with the Kirk contract, for example. I mean, we see how they they traded him because they don't want to pay him anymore. Not because he's a terrible player, but just the contract. So they're trying to get contracts where, you know, it matches not only their timeline and scheme and everything. So I'm glad that with the Makari signing, they didn't break the bank, but they got a useful player who can play a lot of positions. And we're going to talk about the offensive line a lot because they signed four offensive linemen. So we see they really did want to protect Trevor is start to build the foundation. And I'm just happy that even though they didn't sign any crazy name to the offensive line, they're trying to go for just building the depth of it, which you need depth at offensive line badly. So I mean, we our offensive line depth was not very great last year. So the fact they're able to get just more guys of that mold, I'm very happy. So we'll see how things go. But
Speaking of depth, the next name on the list was Robert Hainsey, the center from the Bucks, where, Mitch Morse retired, so they needed another player to kind of fill that hole. They didn't want to start Luke Fortner, so now they decided to get a center that Liam Cohn was familiar with last year, though being the backup in Tampa. He was had a whole year under with him under his belt, so they're comfortable enough to give him $21 million over the next 3 years. So yeah,
yeah, I mean,
basically it's confirming what you're saying, just plugging in holes with guys that they're familiar with and can do a job if they need to. Not the best players, but guys that can just kind of fill up some
um,
holes at the moment.
yeah, I mean, with Hainsey, I think he was a fourth rounder out of Notre Dame a few years back. So he started the first 2 years and was kind of up and down, wasn't perfect. They drafted his replacement last year, so he was a backup.
Hmm.
But even Glassman was saying to anyone who was doubtful on Hainsey, just watch the tape from when he started. Because he started versus the Saints last year in a game that the Bucks put up 40 something points. So it was a pretty crazy game, and on top of that, he got a start. So it wasn't like that the offense was terrible when he started. So, and obviously the fact that Cohen's comfortable with him, you say, okay, there must be something here where he feels valuable. He definitely trusts Hainsey enough, and having a center. The thing is, even if Hainsey doesn't start, I think having a center that is familiar with the offense will help Trevor a lot, which I'm very grateful for. Having a center that knows the protection calls, what to look out for, how to help in the run game. Even just in training camp, it can help out whatever rookies on the team. I mean, if Fortner is still there, maybe they want to try to develop him. Hainsey can learn from him, but he's young enough where he can be the starting center. But he's also you don't have to commit to him as a starter. You can upgrade from him. But they just had him penciled in to start, which I think it's a solid move. I think it's 3 years, 21 million, 7 million for a center. So it's nothing crazy where if these players aren't amazing, you're not going to say they paid them so much money. Obviously, you don't want them to be terrible, but you just need to get role players, and I think they'll be fine for the contract. So we'll see how Hainsey fits in on the team.
Sure. And probably the most wild card signing that Jacksonville had now, DMA Brown, who had a very fantastic postseason playing for the Commanders. Now he's taken it's another kind of like prove it deal, but one that you can kind of see the benefits if it just turns out better than expected. Just because of the versatility he has outside, inside. That's the one thing that Liam Cohn was asking for throughout the course of the offseason so far. And they got one of those guys who can play outside and inside, which is why they got rid of guys like Kirk and Ingram, where they were kind of pigeonholed to where they could play. And now they have a guy that can kind of move around.
Yeah, so I know with Diame, some people were saying, why did he get that money? Some people were saying, oh, he hasn't played that great until recently, and even then, he didn't have a breakout regular season, just a good postseason. So I think there's something left in the tank there. I was a big fan of him coming out of UNC. I thought he was a good deep threat. I think the most important thing is we got a guy with speed across from Bryant Thomas. So not just you not only just have to worry about BTJ, but now you have Yamu who he's not as fast as him, but he's a good deep threat. Like you were watching in the playoffs. He was getting open, getting vertical. He's more of a screens, vertical, that kind of guy where just get him on a linear plane, get him with players in space, and I think the screen game will be pretty good. So I'm looking forward to that. But we'll see how it pans out. He wanted to bet on himself. I think he has a pretty good shot to get production in the offense. I mean, there's not a ton of players right now. It's literally just BTJ and Gabe Davis and Parker. And we'll see how Parker even plays because, going back to inside outside versatility, if they don't want Parker to play that much because he can't play on the outside like Diami can, and we'll see if they get another receiver. But it's I'm excited for it, so I'm trying to temper my expectations because always the free agents I'm the most excited about that do the worst. So I'm trying to not get too excited over the moon because it always backfires for me. But I'm just glad that they have now more of a deep threat, more in the passing game, more speed. They have somebody who can open up the field for BTJ, be taken up the field for him, get opportunities. I think it'll be good for everybody involved. So I'm just looking forward to seeing how this all plays out.
And I'm gonna put these two guys in together since they play the same position, but the Jaguars also added Hunter Long and Johnny Munt to the tight end room. Long, a more receiving option, Munt, the more traditional. No, so I got Long was a traditional blocking option. Munt is more the receiving option, but definitely very, very capable blockers on their own ends, which is more than you can say with Evan Ingram leaving the roster, and as well as replacing Luke Farrell, who got a pretty good
Yeah,
contract with the Niners.
Farrell's contract was I did not I'm happy he got the money. I think he's a good player. It's just I did not see him getting that much.
21 million playing like a blocking tight end, which is kind of the market for kind of those blocking tight ends now, which is kind of crazy to see. But the fact that Jags got kind of like two guys that you can just kind of just plug and play. Maybe there's room for one more besides the Strange, Farrell, or Strange, Long, and Munt. So, who knows?
Yeah, man. I mean, for just going back to the Farrell contract, which I really think Shanahan's going to unlock. I don't know, but they did also re-sign Juszczyk, so I don't know what they're going to do, but I think Farrell might have a sneaky good year. But I know, yeah, these guys are definitely more blocking tight ends, which just you see what they're trying to do, between the offensive line and blocking tight ends. They're trying to establish more of a ground game and really focus on the running game, which I'm excited about. I don't think these are going to be players who we're ecstatic for, but they can just do their job. I mean, they're cheap blocking tight end contracts. So I know Hunter Long's relatively young. Johnny Munt's a little bit older, but both of them have familiar with the scheme. Hunter Long came from LA, Munt came from Minnesota, so they both have some of that McVay overlap stuff. So, as long as they can block, just catch the occasional pass in the flat, maybe just get some goal line work in, whether they're a
Third
little
and
goal line.
short, which we
Yeah,
were so
that's
terrible
really
with.
all they need. So you can see the priority in what they're trying to do this offseason, and they really are trying to
Yeah,
build
getting more
more.
versatile within like situational footballs because we are pretty bad in some of those situational football
What?
situations
I had no idea.
with all the one possession losses we had last year's
I had
season.
no idea.
I know, not like we had like double digit of them or anything. I don't know. Who remembers that? I don't remember all that. That's crazy.
But
And then
even
two,
just, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
no,
off.
no, 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 go ahead.
I was just saying the fact that you see the approach they're building for, and they're trying to build a wall. They're gonna make Shaq Khan pay for it.
And yep. And speaking of the wall, two final signings, both on the offensive line, both played tackle position with Chuma Edogbia and Fred Johnson.
Yeah, I know Chumo bounced around a little bit. I think he was drafted by the Jets. So he bounced around. He's a swing tackle. Fred Johnson was their Eagles backup tackle. So hopefully he has something from the Eagles where he can bring that to fruition, teach some toughness because they definitely needed it. But yeah, I'll say probably obviously I don't know too much about these guys other than they're swing players, so you're not expecting anything crazy, but it is nice that they're, as I said, trying to just build all on the offensive line, raise the floor of the team. They're really trying to focus on, okay, this is how we make the team tougher, improve the offensive line depth, which is just always needed because same thing with offensive linemen. Even if you don't start during the season, you can always play an offensive line. So getting tackles who can compete, I think, will be helpful. And actually funny that Fred Johnson started against the Jags when the Eagles played them that year, and he did pretty solid. So, granted, best offensive line in the league. So, but even his one-on-one reps were pretty solid. The fact he was able to show something in his limited time is helpful. So, we'll see how. I can't say, oh, these players are amazing or elite because we don't know anything about them yet, other than they're just depth players. But hey, they're really trying to just improve the depth. I mean, we had a lot of start guys who were starting last year that people weren't excited when they came in. And obviously, you're not excited when the backup comes in. Just hopefully, when the backup comes in, we're not, oh crap, the backup's in. It's okay. Oh, we have a shot still to be competitive, which they didn't. I mean, I think Cole Van Landen was solid. I think he's still on the roster too. I think they kept him, so it's not completely barren. But yeah, the fact, just more depth on the offensive line, continue to build in the trenches. We're starting to see the vision.
Yeah, I mean, all that's left now is just like you said, a month until the draft. So
Just John, my friend. You notice how they didn't sign anybody on the defensive side of two secondary players.
yeah,
Why is that?
why is that? Well, they probably like a lot of guys in the front seven in the draft. I mean, that's the priority when they said you supplement through free agency and you build through the draft. Then we're gonna see how they're gonna be drafting.
Just very curious. They didn't sign any players, not even just on the defensive line, but also the front seven too. I don't know if that means they enjoy the linebacker room or they want to add to it. No clue, but we'll see how that goes out, obviously. But yeah, it's definitely very interesting. We'll see what they do with the defensive line in the draft. But, you know, out of all the players they signed, four offensive linemen and two blocking tight end. So basically six offensive linemen if you're cheating. But it seems they really do want to run as much as they can, get the offensive line in the best shape possible, improve that, let everything else come into place. So I'm happy they're trying to just they have a plan, they're sticking to it, they're not trying to overspend, they want to go through the draft, they want to do things the right way. So I'm happy. We'll see how things go. I'm still kind of just it really depends on just drafting well, but I'm glad they're not just overpaying for free agents. And you saw it last year. I mean, Eric Armstead and Gabe Davis contracts. Ugh. So, I'm glad that they're
We got one more year, of Gabe Davis. We got one more year. You can tell there's a plan though. So like if nothing works out, like Jaguars do, like usually, they got a lot of free space for next year. So
yeah.
it's like, hey, do you want this second contract or are you just gonna fuck off? Basically, is what's happening. So,
That's one way to put it.
but it's the nature of the beast, is the nature of the business. So at the end of the day, we know what they have right now. We know what kind of the plan is for the draft. I mean, it just kind of seems pigeonholed for two players at number five now, right?
Yeah,
I feel like it's
it's Travis
unavoidable.
or Anthony Brown.
Yeah, it's either Hunter or Graham,
Which
100%.
when you have the fifth pick, obviously you can pigeonhole yourself into a few players. I mean, we we know Cam Moore is probably going to go number one. I considering that the Browns and Giants haven't made any crazy quarterback moves. I think Shadur's floor is three, so that basically guarantees one of Travis or Mason Graham. I know there's a lot of smoke yesterday about people saying they think Travis is gonna fall. You even said in the group chat, Travis Hunter, Jacksonville Jaguar. I'm not gonna go there yet. I mean, honestly, I'd be happy with either player. I think that's a slam dunk.
100%.
I think Travis more better aura. I think he's a better player, but I think Mason playing a more important position, giving them a game record, a chance to have a game record. I think they need Mason's impact more, but Travis is the better player, so it really just depends on who's there. We'll see what happens, but we have a month till the draft. We can talk. We'll do a draft episode soon because I've got guys who I want. But now that they've done free agency, you can really see, okay, how they can attack the draft now. They don't have to go offensive line at five. They don't have to go safety early. They don't have to go corners early. They can really let the board fall to them, make best player available, and let Gladstone cook. So
Yeah, we'll go by position. Let's see where it's most likely be draft. I know quarterback probably not until it's like the final round, maybe where they take a flyer on a cam body.
Maybe take a guy in the like fifth round. You never know. Just a depth.
Running back is the one I'm extremely curious about because I could definitely, with two third round picks especially, I can 100% see them take a running back.
Have Trent Baalke gone, please. I mean, now that they've done more offensive line stuff, I think it's more. I think it's possible. I still don't know how early they do it. Obviously, depends on the board.
Especially since
If they
these
go
running backs,
off.
there's a lot of good running. This is like one of the deepest running back classes. It's just which players do you see to be like can be kind of game changing because you only have one more year of ETN. You probably don't give ETN a second contract either, because of the inconsistent play since he's been here in Jacksonville. But I
Yeah,
could definitely see the Jaguars taking a guy, maybe as early as round three, but definitely I think they take one
round
before
four to
they.
me is the sweet spot where I would take one because they have two fourth rounders as well. So
Okay.
you
Yeah,
just take a RJ Harvey, make it happen.
exactly. I could definitely see him being taken to the back end of the third round if they don't think he's
It,
going to be there the next time they select two.
I feel it depends on now what kind of scheme they want to run. We'll see because even I remember Robert Hainsey, he was talking about where when he was coming from Tampa, they expected to run more of a zone scheme, but because they were better at running a man gap, that's what they stick with. So the fact that Hainsey was talking about Cohen's flexibility, his versatility, that he adjusted the scheme to the player's strengths, and he wasn't, you're gonna run my scheme, you're gonna do this, and that. He wasn't trying to pigeonhole players.
Hmm.
I think it's exciting. So maybe with the running backs, they can switch it up a little bit. Because I think if they do want to go for more of a man gap scheme, you can do that with Tank. Get another guy in there who can be a man gap runner that can also catch. Because I still think ETN has some juice left. I don't think he's completely washed. People are saying, "Oh, I think it's there still." I mean, we saw some glimpses at the end of the season. If he doesn't fit the scheme, though, then I understand because he's not a super physical runner. He's gonna try to bounce outside. Sometimes a little bit too much. So we'll see what kind of running back they try to bring in. Same with receiver, where they're definitely going to draft a receiver just because they don't have anybody under contract outside of. I mean, they have Gabe under contract. Who knows how they feel about him? Same with Parker. They have Parker under contract. Who knows how they feel about him? They don't really have a lot of players they've brought in, and obviously they have BTJ, so it's not a super urgent need. But I think that even as early as the second round, honestly, I don't know if they do it as much, but we'll see. I mean, I'd love to have Hunter and BTJ. We'll
Oh,
see how.
that'd just be the dream, right? Just the versatility between BTJ Hunter and De'Ami Brown. That's that's kind of what you like. That's something you kind of just dream of. But, if he doesn't fall to five, it is what it is. But, the fact that we got kind of like Ramsey falling to our laps, like, what? That's almost nine
It
years
was
ago
also at
now.
five.
Yeah, like 9 years ago now. So, we've,
That was my first draft rooting
as
in
a
the
Jags fan,
fantasy. That was my first time being heavily invested in the draft process. And I remember, yeah, there's no way Dallas will give us Ramsey. Then we got Ramsey. Like, what? And then
there's no way New England will give us Travis Hunter. There's no way that Mike Vrabel will surely hand gift us probably the best prospect in the draft this year, right? No, no way. No way.
we'll see, man. But yet, the one thing is now with the draft, they can truly go BPA. I still think they're going to prioritize defensive line just
Tight
because.
end, no. Offensive line, no.
I thing is,
Maybe.
I wouldn't be surprised if they drafted an offensive
Baselli's in
lineman.
the building, so that's
Yeah,
never a
but with Tony in the building, because at the end of the day, maybe they don't love Ezra Cleveland. They didn't bring him in. Maybe they don't love the tackles too. They didn't bring them in. So nothing is off the table. I think that they don't have to go offensive line early, but they can go offensive line early if they really like a player in that range. And you know how Tony's going to say, just develop the guy. Because I don't know how early they do it. Maybe instead of going second round, they go third round or something. I don't know. But now they don't. they have more flexibility. I mean, with tight end, I don't know how they feel about. I mean, Gladstone's been on the record saying he's a fan of Strange, and I think Strange fits the scheme they're trying to run. I don't know if that's on from drafting another player. I mean, if maybe they traded down and they really like Tyler Warren, maybe they take him. I would. I think it'd be a good fit. I don't. It's a good tight end class as well, so they're probably going to try to just go for another blocking tight end that can kind of play in space, catch a little bit, just like a motion blocker.
It's
So,
still it's like I'm not gonna complain at the end of the draft because I feel like if you get Travis Hunter, you get the best player in the draft. You get Mason Graham. That kind of that kind of pegs what Walker, Allen, Hines Allen, like Armstead and Mason Graham as kind of like your best four, like from a 4-3 kind of fit was like you can't really complain about that. It's kind of like your front four. I think it's just I hate pigeonholing like you said, but I think those are the two guys that you can kind of leave and be very happy with no matter what.
yeah. So either way, as long as they just draft good players, I'll be happy. I have faith in Gladstone and Baselli and Cone to work, collaborate, be on the same page, same process. So, man, with this free agency, we saw they really did want to raise the floor, brought in a overhaul the roster, just try to improve the back end depth. And we'll see. Because I just don't know what positions they're going to try to prioritize, or if they're just BPA, 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 which isn't a bad approach if they get the best of all the players, So it's his first draft. We'll let Gladstone cook. And then, yeah, I mean, is there any position that you want them to attack outside of defensive line? Because I feel they haven't
That's
attacked.
probably the priority. This
Is there any
interior,
other, yeah, any
mm,
other position you want them to really attack in the draft?
I mean, we kind of have to address the secondary. I mean, that's the thing though. That's why I'm kind of just infatuated with the fact that, Travis Hunter or Mason Graham is going to be there at 5 because those are excuse me. But it is a what do you call it? It is just something to just prioritize when it comes to the biggest needs. Like we didn't really have a weapon besides Brian Thomas Jr. And then we also didn't have interior pressure until Eric Armstead was playing in the middle, and then Mason Graham finally got snaps in the last quarter of the season, which
Be
still
Mason Smith,
yeah.
but
Mason Smith, Mason Graham. Yeah, we could have a Mason and Mason
I
defensive
really
line.
want Mason and Mason to develop. That'd be so cool.
We have our Twin Towers back in the early 2000s with Henderson and Stroud. Now we're gonna have Mason and Mason for our interior defensive line. Hey, I mean that's probably like a very good interior defensive line if you can get Mason Smith to stay healthy. So hey, I'm okay with that too. But you know, there's a lot of needs on this team. Maybe besides like linebacker, you're kind of comfortable there, but you can always add a depth guy to the linebacker position, especially someone that could contribute special teams. Secondary is still kind of a big question mark, especially in the safety end, because besides the guy you just signed, Eric Murray from the Texans, who else is going to be starting beside him? Are you going to keep Darnell Savage? Is there a rookie you really like coming out in the draft to kind of just play in that position as well? Like, who knows?
Yeah, man, I'm glad they did what they did because now they can truly just be BPA according to the scheme, obviously, in their board. So we'll see how things go, but it's exciting times, man. We got a whole new process ahead of us. Only thing I ask for next, Jags, change the uniforms back and my life is yours. That's all I'm asking.
For sure.
Not you, Jack. I after I said that too. But yeah, man, I'm grateful that we're in a spot where it's not okay, we have to get this, have to get this, have to get that. They still want to address some play pieces, but we'll see how they do. But let Gladstone cook. Or what was the name of like the stove iron? Not something stone, unless I'm going crazy. There's like a one grilling thing, and it was like crafts. I forgot. I remember something cooking, but Let Gladstone cook though.
What else did you want to talk about before we kind of just relax for before the draft gets closer and closer?
On the cruise, I played
Oh
so
my
much
goodness.
block throw, and I tell you, I really started to actually understand how to get. I haven't done all the crazy stuff yet. I still just unlocking all the higher difficulties. I did a run on Red Stake, so I haven't unlocked everything yet, but I'm getting there. Such a fun game. It's crack. Don't play it, it's so addicting.
So good, so good. I had to put you on it because that's how much fun I had when I was playing it. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'll talk about my Orlando trip. Gotta go see Tyler, the Creator. Definitely the best in-person performance I've seen in person too.
For some reason, the horns reminded me of the Loaded Dipper
It
from Pirates
loaded
of
dip.
the
It
Caribbean.
really does look like the loaded
That's what I was
dipper.
thinking the whole time. I didn't realize it was Tyler. I was like, is
Yeah,
that a
it's a
character
chromacopia hat. That's what
from?
it is. I guess it also kind of goes to California because he's from, the Los Angeles area too. But I know it's like a chromacopia hat, so I was like, it's sick. It was super expensive, but it is what it is. I had to represent. I'd always could leave a concert with something, so I decided to get a hat. We're big hat guys over here at the Jagged Edge show.
Getting sticky. That's gonna be my pants when we draft Mason Graham or Travis Hunter. It's getting sticky.
That performance in person was pretty sick too. Sticky was so much fun live.
But yeah, I think that's mainly it for now. Just we can focus on the draft for these next few episodes. We try to get a guest on soon so we can actually try to talk about the prospects. I know it's been a while since we had a guest on, so
Yeah, I think it's time for sure. We say that every time. I gotta get to work and deciding
I'm
whether
not
we.
going on vacation all of April.
No.
It's all gonna be
Well, I have one after the draft, not before the draft. Only after the draft.
oh yeah. You're only allowed to lock in until this draft is finished.
Exactly. Now we can do some more research. Besides guys like Travis Hunter, Mason Graham, we gotta go every other round. Kind of just guys that kind of fit what happens before, or that's kind of fitting the scheme. Both Cohen and then Campanile on the other side wants to run, right?
I
So
guess.
hey, we'll see. Other than that, I think it's been a great and productive episode. Finally caught back up. Finally woke up. I took an edible last night, so that took me out for basically 12 hours plus. So I love that. Needed it. But other than that, Javal, if you have nothing else, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Stay safe, my friend.
You too, man.